Today, we are going to be looking at using Spotfire Copilot for a Statistical Processing Control, or SPC, demo. In this application, we have a summary page, which includes a couple of tree maps, such as looking at the parameters based on their out-of-control limit violations. I want to create a corresponding visualization for the runs rules violations. And without even specifying that I wanted a tree map, I asked Copilot to help me out with this, and it creates a stunning visualization that I can now go ahead and drag into the place I want it on my analysis page. Now, the visualizations are great for a broad overview, but let's say I also want to just get a list of the 5 parameters that have the highest rates of runs rules violations. I can also go ahead and ask Copilot that, and after generating and executing a query, I will see a table output showing those top 5 parameters with their corresponding violation rates. So next, I want to dive into this one parameter in particular that I have marked, this parameter of interest. And let's say I want to report on this parameter of interest. I have some great visualizations here looking at the mean and variance charts. And rather than starting a report from scratch, I'm going to go ahead and explain this entire page. By explaining this page, we get explanations of each visualization, and we have a great starting point to talk about that single parameter. Now on to actually expanding this application. I want to look at CPK values, but currently I don't really have a lot of background knowledge on CPK, and I also don't have any CPK values calculated. So first, I'm going to go ahead and change the mode to the SPC index, and this contains some documentation regarding SPC and CPK information. So I've gone ahead and asked what does CPK measure, as well as what is considered a good and a bad CPK value to really establish myself with the metric. The response then also returns citations showing exactly where in the documentation those answers were pulled from. And I can quickly copy and paste those responses into a text area mod to save that information for future users and for future reference for myself. So I've now changed back to the default Spotfire mode, and I can actually get started with calculating my CPK values. So I'm going to do this by creating a data function. I'm going to create a data function to calculate CPK. And when I open up the data function properties, I see that there are currently no data functions registered to this analysis. When I go ahead and click Create Data Function, we see that that has now appeared in the Properties menu. And not only has the code been generated, but the input and output parameters have also been generated for us. So now I can go ahead and trust that data function and go ahead and quickly start setting up the parameters. I'm just going to go ahead and add my input table, select all the columns, make it easy. And then I have my output table, which will be called CPK values. So now in my data canvas, we can see our CPK values have been calculated, and now we can actually get to visualizing and asking questions about the CPK values. So as we know from our documentation, a good CPK value, or a parameter that is highly capable, is one above 1.33. And without even mentioning those specific values, I can ask Copilot how many of my parameters are highly capable, how many are not capable, and quickly get those responses. Now, I also want to take a look at the overall distribution of my CPK values across all my parameters. And I also, again, want to utilize those thresholds that we learned about from our documentation. So to do that, I'm asking Copilot to create a bar chart that shows the parameters with 3 color segments: highly capable, capable, and not capable. I also think that the visualization would look better if the bars were horizontal, so I'm just going to ask Copilot to quickly make that modification for me. And now we can just make some tweaks here, expand the y-axis titles, move up the legend, and now we can report on this visualization by using the explain visualization feature. Now, in the meantime, I'm just gonna open up another text area mod and call it CPK results. And I can quickly go ahead and copy the results from my explanation that was generated and have that as part of my analysis page. So in just a few minutes, we calculated CPK, we understood what the CPK measure actually is, what certain value thresholds are, we visualized our CPK values, and we also generated some insights on the overall distribution. To wrap it all up, let's say I want to export this as a PDF. I can have Copilot help me with how to follow those steps. And then I have now successfully expanded upon this application with Copilot.